So we open with the Russells talking about Mr. Sissy coming to her luncheon for the opera. And Mr. Russell said Mr. Sissy is playing a dangerous game. Wait till Heifer asks to find out. And Turner turning up with them. And Train Daddy was like, you gonna let that heifer in your house? And she's like, well, they may take a box, so I can't afford to object, even if it sticks in my craw. But she don't want everybody to know her form of business, so I'm gonna keep it out the street as long as she act right. She told Church, look, Turner coming back, but she's coming in through the front door now. Over with Agnes and Ada, they peeping out their window, and Agnes is like, so what they doing? They got the circus coming? She said, no, it's just women coming to a tea. Well, I need to see the guest list before I draw any conclusions. And Ada said, don't you miss parties? Why, are you planning something? I'd like to invite the new rector for luncheon. We gotta listen to him for 2 hours on Sunday. Even Jesus took a rest. However, she said, you know what? The cousin Dashiell is interested in Marion, so go on and have him over. I'll bring him so we can hook him up with Marion. However, we know this heifer's stubborn, so we gotta ease and finesse it. We don't want her to know we trying to set him up. We gotta let her think it was her choice. But over at the Russells, honey, Turner is turning up. Child, one of the ladies' maids runs down, tells the kitchen, Miss Turner here, Miss Turner here. As a lady. Mr. Church announced her as Mrs. Winterton. I don't understand. The chef said, she married up. She married the fuck up. But now Bertha addressing the crowd. New York needs the Metropolitan so it can have the opera house it deserves. And we've decided to open our season on the 22nd of October, same day as the Academy. So now people will be forced to choose. Over at the Van Ryans, Marion comes in, she's a bit late. Miss Fane is already with us. Over at the Van Ryans, they waiting for Miss Astor to show up, because they got their opera house meeting. Miss Fane invites Marion to an Oscar Wilde play next Tuesday. However, Maud Beaton wants to get to know Oscar, and first thing Agnes said, is there any money? I believe there's a great deal. Then she meets the requirement. Oh, but here comes Lena Astor. Child, Mr. Sissy got a run over from the Russells to the Van Ryans. He always up to have Astor's cooch. Lena Astor said, I didn't know Miss Russell was going to be such a fighter. You didn't think she'd fight against you. Not so bitterly, anyway. She gonna get what she want. So Mr. Sissy gets over and says, now you know they're gonna be opening the same day as us. How dare she try to steal the Academy's thunder? Child, thunder's up for grabs. So Heifer Astor said, Van Ryan, I need you to put the word out that if you go to the Metropolitan, you lose your box at the Academy. Now, I can't say it, but you can. Miss Fane said, you know what, before we start handing out clubs, I'm going to get out of here. If only it was that simple. Downstairs, we got the footman still tinkering with that alarm clock. I'm telling you, he going to be Mr. Cassio. Over with Train Daddy, they getting ready to meet with the union guy. Over with Bertha, Miss Fish telling her, I'm gonna need you to get some more old money in your crowd and then I might take a box. Heifer Winterton, for example. She may be new, but her husband's money is old. Girl, Turner come over and say, you know, I have a box at the Institute of Music and I knew a heifer who couldn't get one. And now, like all the other malcontents, she supports the Met. But I will be grateful and enjoy my box at the Academy. By the way, we're receiving the Duke of Newport as a guest. My husband has many friends in Europe. Girl, Turner said, you know what, George, you mean Mr. Russell. No, I mean George, he ain't tell you we was humping around. That's why I thought you fired me. Oh, okay. Bertha is not in the mood. Over with Peggy, she wants to go with her head writer down to the opening of the Tuskegee dormitory. And he's like, a man and a woman traveling together? She's like, look, I just want to tell the damn story. Lord, we got the Russell son still with that heifer. However, over at the Russells, Bertha confront her man. And he's like, look, nothing happened. She tried to sleep with me. I told her no. We moved on. I didn't tell you because nothing happened and you liked her as a maid. He said, I'm sorry it was a bad decision. That's a betrayal! So she sauntered off all teary. But that night at the play, We've got young Russell and his cootis. But we see Mr. Van Rock. But we see Oscar's flirting with Maud and enjoying it. The boyfriend season's like, However, we see Dashiell and Marion getting quite on. But now we meet Mr. Oscar Wilde, and he pegs, well, I'm sure he would love to peg Oscar, but he pegs him straight away. And Miss Fane's like, what? And he said, oh, you're a delicate lady, of course, you wouldn't understand. Later that day, Ada runs into the Reverend while she's running errands, and he invites her out to see some watercolors. They go home to pack for her trip to Tuskegee, and her mama like, look, you've never been below the Mason-Dixon. It's a different world. And we end the episode with Heifer Russell telling Mr. Russell, look, you want back in this bed, you better get me that Duke. However, the Union people, they're preparing for a strike. They're like, we're ready to die if we have to. Child, I don't think it's that necessary. And we end it with Ada's date with the Reverend. Well, let's get to the next one. So we open with Bertha giving a tour of the new opera house. And of course, Miss Winterton there telling her, I'm not getting a box, and just rubbing her nose in her new money and status. However, Miss Russell gets asked by the press, your son hunching that heifer? She said, nah, they just working together. They ain't hunching. We all like the heifer. Aurora tell Miss Russell now, Maud Beaton also is saying your son Beaton. That pussy up. That pussy up. However, the man running the opera house is like, look, we done run out of money for the workers. Over at the Van Ryans, Ada's having a tea supporting the Reverend's missionary work. Maud Beaton's here too with Oscar. But child, Ada and the Reverend get to flirting. Talk about travel, and they still got a lot of life in them. However, we can tell Marion ain't really feeling the cousin and stepping into that mommy role, because this heifer mistook her for Miss whoever, and she's like, no, I'm Marion, honey, I'm Marion, single, Marion. Then the daughter come up to her with the pappy, and she's like, we're a family, aren't we? And she's like, you know what? Girl, entangled in each other's arms. We've got young Russell and Miss whoever. And she said, you know your mama asked to meet me. And he's like, oh, I'm sure it's about the opera. Nobody cares about the rumors. Over at the Russells, Train Daddy got good news for Bertha. I got us invited to a reception with the Duke. She said, okay, that's good, but I need you to look into why the work and the money is stopped at the opera house. Miss Winterton rubbing my nose in her academy membership. Bertha, however, brings up the fact that her son hunting this heifer is becoming the hot topic. And I'm tired of putting out fires. Well, I got your back, babe. Then get me that Duke. She said, well, I'm going to talk to Miss Blaine about hunching my son. I got to nip that in the bud. Downstairs with the father footman, they paying him to leave. And he's like, I got to hear it from my daughter's lips, but I'll take the money and go to San Francisco. I'll have a footman. Down in Tuskegee, they getting off the train. Miss Scott and the head writer get off the train. Meanwhile, Marion gets offered a full-time position at the school teaching reading, writing, math. Over in the park, Miss Ada is walking with her reverend and he's giving flowers. Girl, so back at Bertha's, we got Miss Blaine in the living room. Some gossip has reached me that I find disturbing. Huzzy, get away from my child. You've had your fun. Isn't it time to end it? What is it that you want from him? You can't give him an heir. And if he stays with you in 20 years, when he's in his prime, you'll be with a walking cane. He'll be waiting for you to die like you were waiting for your husband to die. I only say these things because they're true, dear. So Marion tell Agnes and Ada at dinner about the full-time teaching. And Agnes says, when did it begin? Teaching these beggars. Don't call them that. So at dinner, Agnes go on and ask Agatha, you hunching? You going after this reverend? It would be really shitty of you to leave me after all these years. All right, so you ain't flirting? No, he's just a friend. They say he's just a friend. Over with the footman, he tells them, look, you can't buy me off unless I speak with my daughter, and he won't let him, so he won't take the money. At the Russell's house, though, the chef is asking out the headmistress of the house. And we see her sitting at Bertha's piano getting ready to play. So over at the Wintertons, Heifer Astor comes by and kicks them out of the academy for her hussy ways. and her hussy pass. They gon' get her and her hussy ass. He said, I will not forget this, Lena Astor, and nor will you. However, that night at a dinner, we see Bertha run in to the dining room and switch place cards so she's sitting next to the Duke instead of turning up Turner. Oh, they put her right next to Oscar. Turner was pissed, but she's like, oh, it's you. I mean, I had something to do, but never mind, we here now. Of course. So at the dinner, we find out the Duke don't want to stay with the Winterbottoms, so Miss Russell says, well, stay with us. We got some kids your age. Down in Tuskegee, Peggy's beaming about the campus. Lord, they teaching Miss Scott how to milk a cow. Over at the Wintertons, the hubby got a break to old Turner that she's out at the academy. We see Oscar and Maude walking in the park, but well before dark. So he tells her, she's whining about money, and he says, well, you know, I'm a banker. I might be able to help. Over with Mr. Russell, though, he gets out of his carriage at the office and is met with a strike and protest. Lord, young Russell go over Miss Blaine's house, and she's like, look, your mama onto us. I gotta cut off the puss. You need to find a heifer your own age. So she break it off with them. She's like, it was a fling. If we stop now, we'll be okay. But it could get complicated if we keep on going. At the rectory, the Reverend asked Ada to the opera because he got a box for the season. Oh, he get down on his knee and propose in the church. And we see Agnes eating all by herself. That's what you get when you're crotchety. A lonesome crotch. Back with the Russells, she go on and forgive him, but she like, don't ever pull that stunt again. But we got the Duke, so I'm all right. So the next morning, the news goes out that the Duke's staying with Mr. and Mrs. Russell, and Turner's turned. So we open in fabulous Newport. The dinner is almost upon us. However, Larry drunk with his friend, and she's like, hold on, hon, let me have a minute with my son. Well, you done broke his heart by taking away his season, his May-December love affair. She sent him to New York to heal his heart. There won't be any more reminders of the heifer in there. And that's smart. Maude sits down with Aurora Fane and tells her she's worried about Oscar's motives. Aurora's like, I like him, he's funny, but take your time, get to know him, draw your own clue. Girl, over at the Van Ryans, Ada getting ready to tell the family she getting hitched. He has asked me to marry him and I have said yes. What? You will not ring the bell. We will not order any champagne. When is the wedding to take place? Next week. Child, we old. She ready to get it in. Do you think Miss Scott could come? Ada's like, we ain't having no long engagement at my age. Oh my God, Agnes said Miss Scott won't be the only one absent. Oscar won't be there either. I wanted him to take me down the aisle. I'm going. I ain't listening to her. What do you know about marriage and the duties of a wife? You're a spinster, and you've always been a spinster. Oscar takes Maude for a walk, and he fills her in on the family drama. However, one of the footmen goes over to Miss Turner's house, the one that used to, gossip with her. He gives Sissy two, and she says, I've got a chef on the inside at the dinner, and we gonna poison the damn Duke. However, we got Maude taking Oscar to a meeting with her financier.
Please sit down.
So they asking him to be quiet about this railroad deal that they about to hit their target funding for. Lord, at dinner, Agnes talk about this marriage would be a disgrace. He's a freaking reverend. You are angry that Ada is no longer at your beck and call. And you ain't never had no friends, so that's it. Back in Tuskegee, we open in the dorm. Oh! So Marion see young Russell coming back, and he's like, I broke up with my girl in Newport, so I'm back in the city to heal my heart. Lord, Heifer Van Ryan stopped by the Reverend's office. You are aware that my sister has no money to speak of. He said, I'm a retire in New York. I'll never ask her to leave the city. I will be alone. You got your son and your niece. He said, look, you got a choice. You can be a part of our life or not, but we getting married. He said, God's demand is clear. A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. It's time to cleave. She gonna leave. It's time to cleave. She gonna leave. It's time to cleave. She gonna leave. Ha! Have you nothing more to say? Not when you've given God the last word. How can I possibly answer that? So we got Russell meeting with young Russell, telling him I'm the trustee of the New Brooklyn Bridge. I need you to go to a meeting for me. I ain't got time. I gotta handle this uprising in the burg. So with young Russell, he tried to meet with this engineer and get the runaround from his people, and it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean he's not going to the bridge opening? So the precocious honky and him decides to just get to snooping through their house, and he come across and find the wife's doing all the engineering and the husband been dead. Weekend at Bernie's. Ada meet with Marion and she talking about giving up. We got Train Daddy on one of his trains heading down to the burg. Lord, Oscar Van Ryan trying to invest in this foolishness? Over with young Russell, he calling that heifer out for her weekend at Bernie's. With the footman, he don't know if he gonna take the money and run or not. The Duke come out and everybody coming to kiss his ass. Miss Fain said, I hope you'll like Newport. He said, I'm sure I'll love Miss Russell's Newport. As Heifer Winterbottom walks up all nose out of joint. However, in the kitchen, they catch the chef sabotaging the sauce. Girl, but they stop it just in time. Snatch the footman and all. Her sissy spy. Girl, so we just get random racism at a black restaurant down in Tuskegee, where it's like, okay, we gotta get y'all on the next train. This isn't gonna work. Over with the Russells, they're gloating over their great night. Downstairs, they celebrate themselves for stopping the first chorus with the poison, or just shitty food. But girl, we see torches lit in the burg. Oh my God, no, it's racist white people looking for, Miss Scott and her writer friend. They're hiding in a barn. Your mama told you stay north of that line. Girl, but after the danger pass, they get to making out. But he's married. But now it's the day of the wedding. Oh, we gonna have to do another episode. I wanna get to the wedding. And Dashiell picking up Ada and Agnes standing there like an asshole. Just staring at her. But she's like, bump it, I'ma be happy. So she getting married, everybody showing up. Oscar show up and walk her down the aisle, and when she get to the end, Heifer Agnes step in and sit down. And Agnes smiles. Aw, you took forever, but good for you. And that was the shit, so let's get to the next one before Atlanta.